So you learn something new every day. Today is the day that I learned that apparently Baltimore, Maryland is like a 5-star vacation resort. I had no idea about that. But that's apparently true. If Donald Trump said it was really bad, so the media is now telling us it's really good. Not a huge surprise, I suppose. I figured, though, we should probably check with somebody who's spent some time in Baltimore, and Daniel Horowitz. He's a senior editor, Conservative Review, and he joins us now. Daniel, thanks for coming on. Do you currently live in Baltimore, or have you grew up there?
I've been born here. I've lived here my whole life, just 3 blocks away from the city, or something that rhymes with it, but we want to uphold the FCC standards here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So have you found it to be this incredible, basically Disneyland is the way the media is presenting it today. Is that the reality?
Sure. So, I mean, here's the deal. Typically, I never like getting involved in the soap opera of tweets. I always like focusing on policy, but this tweet spat, in my mind, embodies the policy war. Will this country be like Baltimore, or will it be like Texas? I mean, that is the question. What Baltimore is very simple. You have to be very in tune with your geographical surroundings. You have to know exactly where you're going and where you're not going. I live right outside the northeast area of the city. The northwest area. The western side is where Elijah Cummings is the congressman, and the president was right when he said it's rat infested, except I could deal with the rats. What I can't deal with are the criminal human rats that are not locked up in prison. They are not countered by the police because the police are treated like criminals. I can't carry a gun, so I can't protect myself. Oh, and by the way, it's a sanctuary city. So, in other words, if Democrats had a city, it would look like Baltimore.
And they do have it, and it does look like Baltimore. I mean, because it's amazing. You read a story for Conservative Review today talking about, you bring up the Second Amendment thing, which they've just exempted themselves from the Second Amendment. They don't apparently have to pay attention to it at all in Baltimore, and it leaves you kind of at the whim of every criminal who decides that they're going to ignore the laws. And it puts you on the wrong end of this gun war, really. I mean, you can't defend yourself. It's massively in poor taste to me.
No, so that's exactly the predicament we have here. In other words, it's always been pretty bad. But as you well know, since 2015, the Freddie Gray riots, things have gotten particularly bad. Why? Because the police would rather die than do their jobs because they're going to be dragged through the mud like those six cops were. In Freddie Gray's case. So what they do is they've taken a just very passive approach. What that has done is in the inner city, you have a record number of murders. More in the suburbs where I live, you don't really have the murders, but you have the carjackings, muggings, and home break-ins. And here's the thing. They could carry whatever gun they want. And if they're caught, especially the juveniles, they could have 6 felonies within 6 months, won't do anything. They will not get locked up. But you and I both know if I were to violate Maryland's anti-carry law and carry in self-defense, which I've thought about a couple times doing when it's gotten really bad here, believe me, they will catch me and prosecute me for it.
Let me take it, because I'm glad you brought it back to policy, because that is what is really important here. And I'm kind of fascinated as the way sort of our conversation about policy is changing the way people think. Because I think it happens on both sides. Here we have a situation with Baltimore where the president comes out and says things are bad there, so the media reacts and says they're good, and everyone's posting good things. I think the same thing happens with things like abortion, where the president, when he comes out, and I agree with him on the story, but when he comes out, it almost makes the other side more rigid in their defense of the pro-choice side of it. And it's like, without principles, you make arguments like this based on whatever feeling comes from Twitter that day. That can't be the right way to run a country.
No, it's unbelievable. And I'm seeing this week in the Senate, every Democrat is voting to block arms sales to Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. Literally the same vote that Rand Paul pushed when Obama was president. The vote tallies were the opposite. I mean, there are no principles. We're seeing this on every single issue. As it relates to Baltimore, look, we could disagree over policy. There is nobody here, including liberals, and there are many, who think Baltimore is a good place to live. I mean, any native, anyone who's grown up here understands that there are few famous East Coast cities that have gone from 1 million people down to fewer than 600,000 over the last few decades. Everyone understands this is a problem. Baltimore, listen to this. Baltimore has a higher homicide rate than El Salvador. 56 per 100,000. El Salvador is 51. Guatemala is 22.5. So, the notion that Trump will come out and say the sky is blue. Now, you could say you're mean in doing it. I don't like your tone. But to deny the fact is just ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing, too. I mean, the countries you're naming are countries people are fleeing to our country supposedly for asylum. We're offering them places that have higher murder rates. Daniel Horowitz, read the stuff on conservativereview.com. Appreciate you coming on.
Take care, Stu.
Back with more in Baltimore in a second.